So here we have the detail of the David from Michelangelo, and this is the drawing that we started. So we already measured all the picture as we printed out, and we wrote the measures in here. Then we multiply by 1.5 times because that's the size that fits if we make this image, the original, bigger. Okay, so you multiply by 1.5 times. It can be 2 times, it can be 3 times, but what is important is that the measure you use, the number you're going to multiply by, needs to fit in the new paper, like the result, and also that you multiply by the same number both the width and the height of your picture. So once you got the measure, you're going to divide it. I divided into 3 pieces, but you can divide into 6 or into the amount you want. The more number you get, the more amount of lines you're going to have in here, so it's going to be easier. Usually, if you have more details in your picture or you need more help to make it easier to copy the image and transfer it to a bigger paper, as we have in here, then you can add more than 3 divisions going up and 3 divisions going to the side. So I already started in here copying this part of the hair, and I'm just going to have my picture on my side, and I am going to start checking, for example, where can this line be. So this is in the second box, 1, 2, and I can see that there's like a W shape, that it's very centered, and it goes very long from here. It makes a little curve, and then it goes very soft. It makes a curvy shape, and then it goes up, and it actually connects to the first square, that it's the one we have on the picture on top, that it's going up. So I can calculate that. I can double check, for example, by taking a look at this image, because I can see that it's not so centered, because if I divide visually this into half, that's the point where it starts. So it's no need for you to use a ruler, but just to start calculating how much, how big, how low does it get, if it's very like tip. So maybe I can check that I did a mistake in here, because this one I can divide it into thirds, and it's about 1/3. So if I divide this into thirds, then I can check, maybe a little lower, that in this image it's actually correct in the height. Then I can check, for example, that we have the eye about getting to the line of the 1/3, and I'm not going to see or think as I am drawing that I'm doing an eye. I am just going to copy and repeat in my brain, for example, which kind of shape. So I could say that it's a curve, that it's pointy, or it's very roundish, or if it's a curvy line going up, and that then it goes kind of straight and horizontal, and then it makes a curvy going in. So with that description in my brain, I am going to keep on doing all my drawing. So here I can see how low it gets, and I can get to the next one. A very good tip is that I can see the relations between the different boxes, but also that I go square by square. So once I get everything I need to do in one, then I am going to do the one on the side, and then I can double check, which is going to be way easier. So I can see that at this point is how big it's going to be my line. It's almost very straight, and then I can check in here that it's a little bit more than half. So if I divide this one in half, this is going to be a little bigger, so the extra little piece, I am going to have it there. I am going to check also how much distance do I have between this line and this line with this little point, and then how do they connect. I can also start drawing like the shapes where I can see darkness, because that is going to be very useful for me to understand as I start shading. then I can see that this circle goes there, and almost it's about 1/3. Remember that we usually measure with our pencil, but I can make very basic measures as well with my fingers if it's just a tiny area. I can also use my finger. As you practice this, you will see that it becomes easier to start measuring visually, and that's why this exercise is so important. So I'm not going to think what I'm drawing, I'm just going to repeat what is it that I can see there. Obviously this drawing is not going to look complete yet because it has no shadows, it has only lines, so it's going to look quite flat. The important thing is that you have enough observation to take a look at the figure, and this is going to make it easier for you to check on the image. I'm going to the box number 7. As you can see, for example, I numbered them here, so I can have the number 7. Important always to write it down softly, so that when you write the numbers in here, you can barely see them because those lines should actually disappear at some point. So I'm not going to give all the descriptions because this is going to be very unique depending on your figure. But what it is very important is that you take into consideration that you always have to be finding a relation. For example, in the original picture, I can see almost a horizontal line there that is connecting both of the nostrils with a little shadow, and that this one is going to be a little bit wider on almost touching the line, the border, and then it goes up. So this is my personal way to do this. As you can see, you have to double and triple check every single piece. So this is going to be a dark area. You can actually shade it a little bit if it makes it easier for you to understand. Then we can see that these ones are like together in a line, so I can do this as well. I can see that it makes a little shadow. I can also find connections, for example, between these two. So these two, so that's the way how I can double check, or it's the way how I can draw it, so I can start thinking that from the beginning. So as you can see, the drawing is almost getting ready. So I am going to move. I almost have nothing but a shadow in number 8, which is this little box in this one, and what I have in number 9, which is the last one, is the border of the face. So again, without thinking what I'm drawing, and why don't I think what is it that I'm doing, because usually my brain is going to give me the usual answer as if I was drawing a little house, and it's going to give me the answer of the drawing that little kids usually draw, okay, like the icon that people have in their heads. So what is important for you is just to start repeating what you see without thinking on logics, because remember that to be able to draw realistic, you have to break those rules for everything you have preconceived in your brains and that you have been taught on, like how to draw, and just start drawing what you see, and in that way it's going to look real. Okay, so that's the most important part. So in here you can see that some of the lines are going to get, I'm drawing this little part, so again I'm going to have some dark areas, I am going to have some detail in here, I'm also going to have a shape that connects in here. This one is going to connect out there. This one is going to make a big shape. And sometimes I like to mix these two, so I can have two boxes in one, because it's easier, obviously, not only to go square by square. The good thing about drawing square by square is that you're not following what you think, but what you actually see. So again, it's going to make your life easier Okay, so here you can see that in the original picture, this little shape that I have in here, it looks wider than how I did it. So I have to do it big. It's coming up. It's going to make a little shape like that it's actually very pointy. And then it goes down and it makes a little shape like this. That it's also going to get very close to our limit. So then I can erase all the pieces that I have extra because of the mistake. And then I can double check, for example, in this black part of the shadow between the hair and the head, that I can see that this curl and this one might be very low in comparison to my original picture. So I could fix these ones from here, and now I can erase whatever it's mistaken. Okay, in that way you can see that I have my shape. I still can draw a little bit more the areas in the ear. I can still work a little bit more the areas of the hair. So it's pointy almost to here. We can have some curves going there. Another one that it's very wide. And finally, I have a shape going like this. Also, in the original picture, I can see some different tones. If your picture is not very pixelated, maybe you can take a look at those. But in case you cannot see them, that can be something that works better in the case you are just like shading. Remember that you need to get at the very end a drawing that looks like this, and once you have everything and you double check all the shapes and it looks accurate in relation to the original picture, then you can start shading. So for the shading part, so that you get ready, you can use 2B and 4B pencil. You can have a regular pencil, eraser, or you can have 4 and 6B lead pencils, which I don't have in my hand at the moment. Or you can decide if you want to do it with some brown different tones, okay, so that you can make it look like sepia or like old drawings. Okay, so those are the options you can use. I'm going to explain later how to go on with this one. Thank you.